and welcome to another edition of the Sigma podcast, where we're going to start exploring a new series about RG and AI, so AI in responsible gaming. And we're going to be having a series of 4 podcasts in order to discuss this subject matter. And it's with great pleasure that today we welcome Maris Catania from Leo Vegas.
Yes.
But first of all, I think Maris deserves a huge round of applause from the comfort of your home or wherever you're seeing this podcast for managing to pull off something which has not really happened before, which is a common standard at an EU level. So there are many questions, Maris, to start off. But first of all, thank you for coming.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Maris, before we get into the how, the what, and whatever else, how did you get involved in this project?
So initially, I've always been quite obsessed about the markers of harm. It was also a prime topic for me in my PhD. So I also researched it academically.
So it's Dr. Maris Catania.
Yes.
I apologize.
No worries. I rarely use it, to be fair. But
you've worked for it.
But it was like a major topic for me. It was something that I had been looking into since 2011 already. So through the time at Kindred, through the doctorate, so I focused a lot on this topic. And then EGBA, the European Gaming and Betting Association, they pushed forward as a proposal to have the standard, the markers of harm standard. And they asked me whether I would be interested to apply. So it's not something that you just can go and do it as a project leader. So I had to submit my documentation to show that I'm qualified to discuss on this topic. And then it was approved by the other EU member states that I would be the project leader. So very humbling.
Can I ask what the process was like? Because 27... Wait, did the process start before or after Brexit?
I think in the middle.
So you were 28?
Yes, there were
and then
some comments. Yes.
Okay, but how? What's the process like to achieve such a standard?
The process it's very interesting. It's very humbling, but it can also be very painful. So as a project leader, my involvement was mainly to go, most of the time I would go to the physical meetings. Obviously, we had online participants as well, where you have different countries literally discussing this topic of markers of harm. And it's not just representatives from different countries, so you have different regulations in place already. You also have different representatives, some coming from treatment, some coming from online gambling, some coming maybe from lottery. So you have a lot of different types of...
Different interests.
Yes.
And were these meetings in Brussels?
Brussels and Paris. Because AFNOR was the main who took care of
what
these things.
What is AFNOR, if you don't mind
It's a standardization body in France.
Okay, all right.
So similar to, we have MCCAA here.
Okay, so you went through this process.
Yes.
Which is a political process at the end of the day, because you're dealing with all these member states and all of these vested interests.
Yes.
Was that complicated?
It was, but I always like to take a very academic approach.
Okay.
So even if there were certain things like, can we add this statement in the standard? For me, no, let's see what the academic bodies say. Let's see what it is already established in academia. Because you can't just say, for example, there are speculations sometimes that one gambling product is higher risk or lower risk than another. But can we really qualify these things? We see constantly merging and gamification of gambling. Is it something that we should just, say because one country is saying this? So it was a lot of times trying to see what is academia saying? What is the proof that we have saying? What is maybe input as well from the operators that they can actually do? What do the regulators want to see? So it was a lot of discussions. I mean, we could be stuck on a sentence for a long time, for example, but it was a really humbling experience because there was a lot of collaboration. You get to see a lot of things that I'm sure I would have never had the option to, understand and what's going on. Luckily, I'm not that political, so a lot of maybe some comments would have just flew by
Flew
for
by,
me. But at the end, it was impressive. Even when I remember when I got the news that it was approved, I was walking my kids to school and I just screamed because I didn't expect it at the time because it was quite a hard
when you say
thing.
approved by whom?
By the
what?
member states.
So at a council level?
Yes, yes.
At a council level. So now this is a position at council.
Yes.
Does it need to go through Parliament? European Parliament?
I'm not sure, to be honest, about these things. I know that this will be a voluntary standard, so the regulators don't need to have it in their regulation, but obviously
it's ideal if they do.
It's ideal, and there were a lot of regulators in the discussions.
Okay.
So it was something, again, it was a very versatile group.
So when I used to work at the MGA back in 2008, 2009, there was what they called the expert group, which used to meet under the Spanish, in my time it was the Spanish presidency of the EU, and there was another presidency. But then eventually this expert group got disbanded. So in an indirect manner, you actually got the expert group working again.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of that.
No,
But that's what you actually did with the standardization, because in the expert group, you would have each member state, the gaming regulator, and from government, you'd have a technical attaché from the different permanent representations. So, kudos, well done to that. So the next steps, this is a voluntary standard.
Yes.
Will there be any form of stock taking to see if the standard is a success or not?
Probably. I think EGBA would be interested to see that as well. But I also see that we already are advancing quite a bit in regulation when it comes to markers of harm.
Okay.
If I recall, for example, 2012, it was something that when I was speaking about, people thought I was saying something out of this world. Nowadays, we see a lot of regulators focusing on it, which is quite interesting to see as well.
So, in this set of standards, and also to tie it in now with the subject of the series we have at hand, is AI qualified in any manner whatsoever? Is AI mentioned in any manner whatsoever?
It's not mentioned directly, but as you know with AI, because it's a big buzzword and sometimes you don't understand what it means, you still need to understand what variables you're looking at. So
when you say variables,
the characteristics. So you need to understand, for example, it's not just putting a data consortium and just saying, okay, AI will take over. You need to be aware of what AI will look into. And the standard does appreciate and show, what should we look into to detect harm in players. So looking at, for example, how people are depositing, how people are withdrawing, how people are playing as well.
Trends.
Exactly. So this is, I think, is more of a basis. And then through these different characteristics, these different markers of harm, you can actually build, I think there's no limit then what to do.
So let's say, I'm not that well versed in the subject, but let me see if I'm understanding well. So let's say you feed into an AI, not just what the markers of harm are, but the parameters within which they should be looking.
Yes.
And then that AI can assist in speeding up the process of identifying where you could potentially have problems, not just with the player, but maybe there's a product which is causing a problem as well.
Potentially. We tend to forget, I think, the different steps in these type of responsible gambling initiatives. You have the detection part, for sure, and that's more of the customer. So the customer is showing certain trends, certain markers of harm. And AI can really help with that. I think what is missing right now, maybe we're not looking into it enough, is what if we had to look more into the person? Because I'm sure that someone who's 25 is potentially, the markers of harm might be slightly different than someone who's over 50.
Okay, so you're talking about rather than putting every single player in one bucket, You start creating buckets.
Yes, in my opinion, that should be the next step. And you start understanding more, even the different needs, even the different affordabilities that you see. You wouldn't compare your risk-taking when you're 25 compared to when you're 50, for example.
Could it also be applicable to geography?
For sure, for sure. I think so far the only one that I've really heard a lot is, for example, when we talk about the marker of harm playing at night.
Okay.
And I hear some companies saying, yes, but if you look into Spain, for example, they take a siesta, so it's normal that they gamble a bit in the evening. Like these little things, I haven't researched it yet, but these little things which potentially, yes, as countries, as cultures, it might be different.
Okay. So there are many different elements which go into this AI.
Yes.
So AI can be a tool to assist the human in...
Exactly. AI can be a tool to assist to detect. I think, in my opinion, AI can also be a tool for the operator who's compiling this. Because when you have someone who's detected, you need to do something about it. It's not enough to just detect a person. You need to do some sort of intervention.
Okay.
And I think AI there can really help. What is the best method of actually motivating change? Because it's useless to just say, customer A is showing markers of harm, but what do you do after? And I think that is the next step that we should look into. What is the type of intervention? Is it enough to send an email? Should you call the customer?
Okay.
And I think...
Do you think, right now as it is, it's more of a subjective approach. It's case by case.
Yes, there is some
but
research.
as your volumes increase, it's harder to deal with the situation.
Of course. And there is some research. There's Professor Mark Griffiths and Dr. Michael Auer. They've done a lot on it, like what type of pop-ups can work and everything. But
from an RG perspective.
From an RG perspective, which is technically also, we tend to say RG versus marketing, but I think it's still marketing.
In what sense?
Because with marketing, you're trying to get people to choose your brand. With marketing, you're trying to get people to stay with your brand.
Okay.
RG is doing the same thing.
How? Please explain.
So if, let's say, you have two choices with responsible gambling.
Okay.
You have the choice of just letting them play as they want. They burn out and they stop.
You milk them till they're dry.
Exactly, which we all know that it's not the way to go. But if you're very proactive, if you say, I managed to detect someone at the very early signs, I can help them, for example, set a limit. I can help them block certain products. And like that, you have more sustainable income.
Okay.
And the customers will choose your brand. We've seen it already with the younger generations.
So you're seeing that happen?
Yes, for sure.
So let's say there is brand loyalty.
Yes.
Which is many times driven by actually the content you have. So if you happen to have the slots which a particular player, if he's a casino player, the slots he likes. Sports betting, usually it depends on the interface and how comfortable a player feels and the speed at which everything is processed. So you're telling me with the younger generation, things are changing and they're looking more also at the sustainability of them continuing to gamble?
I think what we see, not just from gambling, but even different platforms, that the younger generation is more conscious. So they would choose a company also if it's more ethical.
Okay.
Yes. For example, in the UK, I don't recall the exact study, but the younger generation were preferring choosing to buy their groceries from companies that they know that they are more ethical, even if it means it's not instant that you receive the groceries.
Respecting the environment more.
Yes, there's more self-consciousness, in my opinion, compared to potentially. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is.
And how do excuse my ignorance on the subject, but how do these trends get studied? How does one see this evolution happen?
In gambling?
In gambling, specifically in gambling.
I think we've seen it slowly as well through the change in regulation. We see a lot of change in regulation, which is focusing more around consumer protection.
Okay.
We see more individuals, for example, going on social media and discussing these things. So people are more knowledgeable nowadays. They know more where they can get. I mean, if you compare before, if you wanted to buy something, you would maybe check, I don't know, Yellow Pages or something like that. Nowadays, you can go on Google, you can go on Instagram, you can go on so many platforms. And it's not just the marketing that you see from the companies. You can see people, what they're saying. There's a lot more informed choice.
Yes and no, because there are certain websites which are bombarded with fake reviews and fake.
Of course,
so it's also understanding.
Yes. But when I teach, because I teach cyber psychology at university,
Okay.
and you see as well that the students that come in, they're usually third-year psychology students. They're very knowledgeable online. They know more than I think my parents would know what to do online. They understand what is a fake review. They understand what is deepfake. So there's more knowledge. I mean, they're born.
They're born into it. They've been born into it.
Yes.
And we seem to have been caught in the middle of the transition.
Exactly.
I'm from the 80s.
87.
1980. 1980. We've got the last few minutes left before we close off. So, where do you see AI within RG and the evolution of RG? The markers of harm is one aspect of it. You can use AI. And before we started, we had a bit of a conversation on realities as well. Because at the end of the day, it is a commercial world we live in. So my main question here is, where are we going? But at the same time, do you believe that commercial realities somehow, I'm not going to use the word hinder, but let's say box in the manner in which there is the next stage in evolution?
It's a spectrum when it comes to the industry. Because you have companies that are really trying their best. And you have companies that I would never even dare to be associated with. I've seen, for example, like really bad initiatives. For example, like you have these GAMSTOP, these national self-exclusions that we all know of if you work in RG. And then you have these websites coming up and they actually promote themselves as non-GAMSTOP casinos. So they're actually being promoted that if you're on a national self-exclusion, you can play on these websites. And then I've heard through the grapevine that sometimes they're using like search engine optimization. So if someone is Googling where they can seek help for their problem, these websites come up as well. So you see that on that side, I get very, very angry. And then you see other companies that are really trying their best and where AI should go. You have the detection part, you have the intervention, but also personalization. Show people how they're gambling. If you look at most account histories, they're all just a list. But if I want to set a limit, what am I going to do? How am I going to go through it? So make it better.
Make it, you visualize it in a form of a dashboard which actually shows.
I always say instead of, because usually the industry would tend to look at each other to understand, just scrap that. Just look at the other initiatives. Look at websites that are really good, because we're all consumers at the end. So it's not just being a gambler, you're being a consumer then.
Maris, it was a pleasure to have you today with us. Once again, well done on your initiative together with EGBA and the rest of the team. I wish you all the very best and thank you so much.
Thank you.